In Syria, President Bashar al-Assad is aiming to retake control of Idlib province. Now, the northwestern region lies on the Turkish border, and it's Syria's last rebel-held area. Now, the Russian-backed regime has this year retaken key territory through a combination of deadly bombardment and surrender deals. This both near Damascus and in the south. Now, for more, we can speak with Omar Imady, a senior fellow at the Center for Syrian Studies, this at the University of St. Andrews. Thank you very much for joining us here on the program. Firstly, I'd like to ask you, let's focus on Idlib and really what is the significance of the battle for the area?
Well, of course, this is the last rebel strongholds, so to speak. So it does have symbolism on this level. It's what's ironic to me as I listen to much of the coverage on this is that somewhere along the lines, we forget that what began in March 2011 was not a military battle. It was, in essence, peaceful protests expressing real grievances that the Syrian people had. So when we cast this as a victory that will somehow end this, the question is, what is this that will end? When it wasn't, in fact, a military battle to begin with. What I'm trying to say is that as important as it is, these victories we see, whether in the south or in Idlib or in the Ghouta, they don't tackle the real issue, which is the fact that the Syrian people clearly had real grievances that are yet to be addressed.
So that being said, then you're saying that perhaps will this end in a military battle, or it will take a different form?
Absolutely, yes. The real movement that began in March 2011 is ongoing, whether or not the regime takes over Idlib. And not only this, what we also are seeing is that the regime is capable of achieving military victory, but is having a lot of trouble governing the areas it takes over. So, for example, it will enter possibly Idlib, but to stay in Idlib and to actually govern Idlib is an entirely different challenge. So while on one level it's defeating those who are opposing it with arms, that is not to be confused with actual governance over the totality of Syria.
So that being said, is the Syrian regime prepared then for this governance when it comes into these new areas, or comes back, I should say?
Right. I think the Syrian regime is very depleted in terms of, the fatigue is enormous. And of course, much of the assistance is external in terms of even of the actual battles, whether we're talking about soldiers on the ground or air support or, various levels. It's been carrying out this military campaign for 7 years. It's exhausted and it's depleted. And it is so stubbornly stuck to the paradigm that this is a military confrontation, a prophecy which itself has fulfilled, when in fact, prior to this, and I believe after, all the military showdowns are over, we will continue to focus on the actual grievances, the political, economic, social grievances that normal Syrians have, and that are alive today more than ever, more than even March 2011.
How will this take shape? Will we see this transition into representation with politics, or how do you see that playing out then?
Right. Well, when there's frustration, it's going to be manifested. So if you suppress it, through military arms, it will express itself in a different way. At any moment where people suspect that the regime is not looking, is weak, they will come back because the grievances haven't been addressed. And as long as these grievances are there, and people in various areas of Syria tasted freedom, so to speak. They tasted governing their own selves. They know what this is like. So bringing these people back to an old psyche that belongs to the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s you can silence them, but that doesn't mean you're actually changing them. So what I'm trying to say is that in the absence of a holistic settlement that truly takes Syria from the tragedy we have been seeing into, somewhere else structurally, institutionally. All of this, as significant as it may seem at the moment, is cosmetic. You're bombarding your own country, but then the final analysis, how far and how long can you continue to do this? People have grievances, and then there is no way, no matter how clever you are or how strong you are, that you can skid around that.
All right, Omar Imady, thank you very much for joining us here on the program. We do appreciate it.